Hi, I'm Dean Paarman from Balance Catamarans. I'm the Director of Operations here in South Africa, and I'm very happy to say that Phil is joining us. He's in Cape Town at the moment to oversee the 502 entering the water right now. We've had the 750 just launch. Just behind us over here is the first boat with an e-drive in Cape Town.
Oh, this 482, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year, we had a 580 go in the water. There is so much happening. This is probably one of the biggest years of Balance Catamarans. Well, actually, no, it is the biggest year. What's the idea behind doing so many new models in a single year?
Well, you know, we started in 2013. What happens is that every builder looks at their model line, and if it's a company that really hopes to have a strong brand and to grow, they need to launch new models every 4 or 5 years, something like that. What I really enjoy is design and innovation and getting better. And now that we have 75 Balance Catamarans on the water, we've been getting really great feedback from all these years of sailing and multiple circumnavigations, and me owning one of my own boats and now about to own another one. The devil's in the details of every little thing, right? And what makes a great boat is the composite, collective perfection or effort to make a perfect boat. You never make a perfect boat, but that's the fun part. And so when we look at these boats, and design these boats, that's what we do. There's a lot of reasons not to do new tooling, though, and not to do that. And the biggest one is just financially, the cost. It is very expensive to redesign a boat, engineer a boat, all the time and collaboration it takes to do that, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happens in the marine industry for a lot of smaller catamaran builders is the cost of doing a new tool, doing the engineering, the long time it takes before you get to the first model is just a cost they don't want to bear. And so what happens is that those boats can cost less money in a way because the tooling was amortized out long ago. But I really think if you're going to have a really revolutionary brand, and you've got to be innovating all the time.
Yeah. All the time.
You have to be innovating. You have to be getting better. And so that was the inspiration behind it. I'm really excited, to be honest, like really excited. But the amount of time is crazy.
Yeah, no, I saw the 502 throughout its entire process of the tooling now specifically, and that's as much work as building a boat itself, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's the inside, the outside, the inside again. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's more work.
Yeah,
because you start with the design drawings, and you have the engineering, then you're doing the tooling, and it's a ton of work. And as you know, we like to do mock-ups of everything that we're doing when we're making a change, and so if you go over to the furniture factory, you see that we're sitting in the salon of a 442. We have mock-up of the salon of the new boats, which is a complete mock-up. And does this work? Does that work? This drawer isn't right. The little details, but they really add up.
And there's a lot of conversations that happen between different departments where your design is laid out, and then somebody says, can we do this? And it has to go back and forth, and that's a costly affair in how much communication has to happen.
Just these tables, these salon tables, like we're sitting around one right now. We've spent hours coming up with the new design for the table for the new models, because we want it to both be a really small coffee table and a loungy area when it's not being used for dining. We want it to come up and become a dining table, but we also need to be able to drop it all the way down and have inserts and make it become a bed.
Yeah.
Okay. Hard to achieve all those three objectives in the same thing, and also create a table that isn't going to get broken, right? With the leaves and the folding and stuff. But I think we did a really good job on this new table, I have to say.
Yeah, and then we have got that other video of walking through that. So if you want to see what that looks like, you check in the description of this video. But before we get into too many little details like that, in a previous video, we spoke about designing for performance. And in this one, I do want to kind of focus in on building for performance. So taking those ideas, putting them on the factory floor and converting them into what we're sitting on. What is it that we're fundamentally doing differently? You've already said that we're building a new model. It's not that we're taking an old model and improving it, although we've done that.
All the great ideas from other boats are being kept. And in fact, the reality is the old models are great. I love the old models. I love this model.
That was a risk that as a brand where you say, you want to bring in a new model. It's like if people say, well, why? Did something go wrong? And it's like, no, it's just a decision that you have to make and you can choose to upgrade. I hate to use the car industry as an analogy, but people, sometimes it works with boats. But yeah, this is a whole new model. It's not just a new series of the same model. And And with that change, let's get into the build of it. How are these being built differently?
We're always trying to achieve that balance between performance and comfort, okay? You can build in more performance and you can build in more comfort, and that's always the goal. How do you do that? What we've learned and seen over the years is that our boats are cruising boats. People are living on Balance Catamarans, a lot of them. And they don't want to give up on payload capacity and storage capacity and deck storage capacity because they know how important it is to live. But to sustain performance and to increase the performance, you need to build the boats lighter, lighter, and lighter, and lighter without making them flimsy and without removing the livability. That's the challenge. And so how we are doing that on these new models, we've increased the waterline length a couple of feet. So the 442 has been replaced with the 464 and the 482 with the 502. So we've increased the waterline length of the boat. Increased the waterline length and also the payload capacity, particularly in the aft end of the boat from about 10 feet forward, building more volume in those sterns and coming back. Part of the reason for that is that we see that people want to put tenders on their boats and large engines. They also, a lot of them want to put solder over their davits, but also a lot of people, in fact, the majority of people are opting to get the new eDrive. So this is an electric motor hub and it adds weight to the very stern of the boat. And you need to build in the volume to carry that. So you get the benefit of adding more payload capacity in the rear end of the boat, but you also get yourself more waterline length. That was a part of the reason for doing it. And then in terms of building it, the idea was how can we keep them in a competitive range of affordability with some of our French competitors and what have you. And
because that, I just want to add in there, there's always, we're talking about the balance between livability and performance, but there's that third vector, which is quality and price, right? And then you have to balance between 3 points in that triangle, which
that's
a lot
correct.
Of people. So
that's correct.
So that was the new challenge with the smaller boats is to take that third vector into account.
That's exactly right. So that more people could enjoy the Balance brand and could afford the Balance brand and also give different size ranges for people.
Yeah, a lot of people say that 50 foot, although it's easy to sail them single-handedly, it's still too much boat for them. And
that's right. Well, that's why the mid 40s size boat is always a very, very popular size.
Exactly, yeah.
That size is the most challenging in terms of building a high performance catamaran. And I always say that, in that mid 40s range, it's not, you can build a performance cat, but it's hard to build a high performance cat if people want all of the comforts that you typically put on the boat. And so with the way we're building the boats now, though, we are taking a lot of weight out of the boats. The new 464 and the 502, we've elected to do this carbon core. And it's an incredible way to use carbon because a lot of the parts in the boat, the fiberglass parts, you can reduce the weight. The cabin soles and the bulkheads and the rudders and the daggerboard trunks. And, you can just shave a lot of weight out of the boats. We've also added stringers, what we call stringers, from the bow going back to the aft end of the main cabins forward and with carbon in them. And by doing that, we can reduce the laminate schedules on the hulls, which further reduces the weight. And then instead of using polyester resin on the inner skins and using only vinyl ester, we're also getting more strength properties out of the vinyl ester, which helps us reduce the weight of the boat. All those things collectively lead to, a lighter boat. The boat can still handle all the payloads that people are giving to it and float a little higher and sail a little faster. At the same time, beefed up the rig on the boat. We're essentially, the longeron and the forebeam now are done like a racing boat. The longeron now goes over the top of the forebeam, and the stays are actually on the longeron and coming down to the hulls. The martingale becomes much smaller. We can carry larger sails, larger headsails. And we've also increased the size of the mast and the rig a little bit. So, just supercharging the boats a bit more. When we are getting into the new 540 and the 580, those boats all become cutter rigs. So they have reaching sails on the end of the bowsprit or asymmetrical spinnakers, a Genoa that does sheet on top of the coach roof, and inside of that a staysail self-tending jib, right? So boom, bam, you just press a button, you can really furl the sails in and out, because achieving that capacity to single hand the boat is super, super important to us, like to make the boat easy to handle, even the bigger one. I mean, the 580 can be handled by a competent couple, but it is a beast. I mean, it's a big boat. I remember when the owner of Windigo, Jean-Michel, sent me a little screen text when they were crossing the Atlantic, and he's showing the speedometer, and it's 15.4 knots of wind and 17.4 knots of speed. Now, okay, so you're going two knots faster than the wind, and that's really a quick boat, right? Yeah. That's a fast boat. The other thing that we did on the design is, I'm very aesthetically oriented, and I felt like we could upgrade our aesthetics a bit. So we participated in a kind of a whole design thing with an Italian design firm, and worked with our upholsterer here, Tariq Fensham, and had a real, meeting the minds. So all the furniture now is a frameless design, more in keeping with what you'll see, at some of the finer Italian furniture companies like B&B, Minotti, those kind of companies. And then we also decided that here in the salon, we wanted the seating to be a little bit more loungy and more like a living room with a little coffee table where you can, because what we're finding is people are eating outside most of the time, and they're lounging inside the boat more often. So made the couches look more like a couch in a home, and just dialed in there. And then also in the terms of the lines of the hulls, we wanted to keep the signature of the Balance. We like the forward rig bows. We like our shear lines. We really like the window lines. I think Anton has a nice hull aesthetic, a nice side profile hull aesthetic. But we upgraded the way the windows look, and we've got a shear that comes in. It's kind of a racy look like you see in some of the new cars and things like that. And I think that looks really, really sharp. And so, kind of just changing the aesthetic a little bit, but it's still a Balance. So you could get an older Balance next to a new Balance, and you're gonna see it's a part of the same family. There's no radical change, because I've always thought our boats were really attractive. Up in New England, where I live, in Niantic, Connecticut, and that's a very traditional area. I know you've never visited, but hopefully someday you will. And soon. It's very yacht clubby and traditional. Okay. And I mean, catamarans are hard sell up there, that it's very traditional. And yet if a Balance catamaran is at anchor, it's amazing how many people come up and say, that's the first catamaran I ever saw that I thought was pretty. And that's cool. Like that makes me really happy. I'm glad, because from the side, it looks like, a really, really nice boat. So,
and now that you're taking the interior to that level too, right? For example, with taking the fridges and putting that wood veneer over that, you're actually getting a little bit closer to that traditional yacht feel. Yeah. Where because a lot of people love that. They want that wood feel inside. And now we're giving you a touch of that, just a feel of it, but done in a modern way, right?
It's funny because if you go to higher end homes these days, you're not looking at a refrigerator.
It's built into the cupboard,
The face of the refrigerator, if you buy a Gaggenau or a Sub-Zero refrigerator, your veneer for your kitchen cabinets is identical to the veneer on your refrigerator. And so we're doing that now. They sound like little things, and they are little things, but collectively you add all of them up, and it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And of course, on the new boats, we're also working on this Versa stern, because I heard a lot of people saying, they liked one of our competitors had this whole stern that dropped down. And I said, well, okay, that seems like an okay idea, but boy, that's a lot of work to drop that whole stern. And when you're docking the boat, you've got to drop it, and then you've got to come in and out. And I said, and also
you've got to use the winch for it too.
Yeah, and it looked like something that could break if you hit. And I said, well, that's a lot of to do to block off the stern of the boat. And so I got to thinking, and I said, okay, I can see why it's nice to have a completely secure cockpit with kids and dogs and animals and stuff. But when you want to get off the stern of the boat, you want to get off the stern of the boat. And so how do you do that instantly? Well, this new door is just fantastic. It's really, really going to good. And the other side benefit is that when the door is down, it's going to make the engines even quieter when you're motoring, you know.
And another benefit is that you don't have to pack away your washboards. You don't have to find another place up in the bow or somewhere to go and fetch them. It's all there. It's built in.
That's right. And look, we're doing a lot more infusion of parts, and like all the bulkheads and the floorboards and anything where you're seeing the carbon, you know, those are infused products, and we're infusing now certain parts of the boat. My concern with Infusion, because I've sold so many used catamarans and I've been through this evolution of it, is that when you get into complex deck parts and deck molds where you've got twists and turns and corners and stuff, it's very easy in infused boats to run into problems because you're injecting resin that has to pull through every little corner and stuff. And you can end up with dry glass areas, and it's not uncommon to have problems with infusion in like twisty turny areas. It's much safer to hand laminate and just be really careful in the resin mixture, because all this effort to build a light boat is great, but you want to make sure that it's strong and that it's not, you know, it's durable.
Yeah, well, that's also when we were talking about the materials earlier, and that we're also using a new cloth, which is also just part of that evolution, upgrading the quality of the cloth, and
still using foam cores. Upgrading the cloth,
which has a hexagonal view in it, which just provides extra strength. And then using that infusion, you can use less, or it pushes out that extra. But the way that the carbon core comes together is now as a tray. So that's basically
in the main salon.
So what I'm saying is that it's put together and it's laid inside. And that way, all those corners in that, they're actually infused flat. It's not infused inside the boat. It's infused in a different area of the factory to make sure they're very flat and smooth surfaces. Yeah. So by the time it comes on the boat, it's as flat and smooth and strong as it can be.
Yeah. And also now doing the clear gel coat, the first stage clear gel coat. So when the boats come out, we can look at that hull and see if there's any little air pocket, air bubble. You can see it, and then we put a piece of tape over it and you prick it and clean it and fill it in it so that you don't ever have to worry about a delamination or like or a little air pocket that might heat up and stuff like that. And so all around, just a lot of focus on building it light and building it strong.
Yeah. One of the great things about that, as you can see in the production line here in the Cape Town facility, is that due to this new process, there's actually more space in the production line where there used to be fairing stations. That can be reduced now, and there's more finishing stations, which gives more time and space to systems and that type of thing, which is, it's a real advantage to quality control, giving each team, more space to that type of thing. So this new process is going to reduce the fairing. We've seen it on the 502. It goes through that stage way quicker. It's just one quick final check over and it moves on to the spray booth.
And that's what's beautiful, though. They still are all sprayed. Like, it's so much nicer than gel coat. It saves money, and sprayed boats are easier to repair, and you can just get just a really nice, nice finish on a sprayed boat. Yeah.
So it's basically not, we continuously innovating on design, build techniques, but fundamentally the same principle has stayed the same with Balance throughout, which is use the best materials, use a lot of hand labor to make sure that people are seeing it with their hands and eyes and feeling and moving this boat through to keep the quality up.
Yeah, and making those decisions about, I think you've pointed this out to me before, that, if all you're focused on is building a light boat, you might not be building a strong boat, and you might not be building a durable boat, and you get back to the glass windows, and why do you do that? Yeah, they're heavy. They're much heavier than Lexan, but they work. They last. They don't shrink. They have better visibility. That was another thing that, in the design of the new boat, was we removed this mullion here, the center mullion. So we had to carbon reinforce the hat beams. And then we went to Goyo and got these really nice big opening windows to be made for us, custom windows that will go across the 3 now primary windows to bring in a lot more airflow. So that was a kind of a design change. And then just right above actually where you're sitting now, there's a really large opening roof hatch. So we feel like the ventilation that will be coming through the salon will be really significant without running into the danger zone that we feel exists when you have windows that open up from the bottom and require all these dogs to, to come down, which I don't think should be open when you're sailing. When you're sailing, you don't want the big.
That's okay.
That's okay. These ones up here are okay, unless it's like really nasty. You're going to get that airflow. And so that was a design decision, but it also required us from a build standpoint to work with the manufacturer to build the kind of windows that we actually needed.
One great thing is building boats in South Africa. We have this huge marine infrastructure, and what that allows us is to look at a great variety of products that the builders can choose from to build with. And I think that's really good, and always choosing the best. And if for whatever reason we need to move on to something else, we have those options. And that's not just true for the things that we use to build the boat, but the things that we install in our boats too. And we've seen that over the years, how OEM products, we always want to look at the quality of the product and the quality of the after sale service. And again, finding the balance between those two things. Sometimes it favors one side, but the quality of the product's so good, we will, we'll step in and help a little bit with the support, and vice versa. But if the product fundamentally is not good enough, we're going to change it.
We're going to change it. And we've been doing that consistently with the brand. If a product lets us down, we'll give them a shot to correct their behavior or their product. And if the service is poor, then we're done. Okay? Because all these boats are assemblages of OEM componentry, some of which is, we're always trying to get the very best quality componentry we can. But when that componentry fails or isn't working properly, how that company stands behind the product, services the product is really important. I can say that Harken has been a great company to work with. We've had some issues with Harken, but the CEO of Harken is like me. We share a similar philosophy. Whenever you have a warranty problem, that's an opportunity to show what kind of company you are. Okay. Are you customer focused or are you not customer focused? What are you trying to do? And we've had some suppliers that have let us down with windows and supports and refrigerators and things like that. So on the new models, we're doing.
And one that stands out is somebody that you've been working with for over 13 years now, which is Ullman, as the primary supplier of sales for Balance Catamarans. It's an international company, started in America, but their base is here now in Cape Town.
Their base is here, It was started by Dave Ullman in Newport Beach, California, where I grew up.
Exactly.
Great sailboat racer.
And then Michael England now in Cape Town is
the
running,
president.
And that's been a great, having the sailmaker right here in Cape Town too. But tell me more about why you've continued to work with them, and what are we doing now again in that process?
Look, when you work with one supplier and you work with them consistently and you're buying in higher volume, you can provide a higher quality product to your customers for a lower price. That's just a fact, right? So the more sales we purchase from Ullman, the more able we are to provide higher quality sales at a lower price to our customers. That's it. But they've also been great in standing behind the product, service and support. I think they've been excellent. I'm going to do another video at one point talking about sales and sail fabrics and that sort of thing. With sales, you can get durability, performance, and price, but it's hard to get all three. And we worked really closely with them on a new sail fabric with Dimension Polyant, which is a company in Germany. We call the Obsidian 150. And it's replacing the RDL fabric because it's a little heavier because it has a thicker taffeta. and it also has more Kevlar filaments in it. So it's going to be a stronger sail, a more long-lasting sail. But it also comes at a slight performance deficit in the sense that it's slightly heavier.
Yeah.
And so sometimes those are the balances that, that you have.
Yeah. And I think for the biggest portion of our owners, that is the better fit. Our owners are living aboard and they're sailing a lot. They're not just seasonal boats that get parked off for a couple of months and then they come out again. So you want something that is, it leans now more on the durability. Just that
it slightly leans more on the durability, because remember, if somebody's very race oriented and they don't care about the durability of the sail, they can get string sails like what's called fiber path, or those kinds of sails are very light and they have beautiful shape, but that shape isn't going to hold up for years and years. And also for people that want the most durable sail possible, they can order Hydronet, which is a non-laminate sail from Ullman. So we give people the option, to do that. But building for quality is choosing good OEM products, but also working with companies that are going to stand behind them.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. At the beginning of this video, I used a car analogy for the model changes, but this is where that analogy breaks down completely, because unlike a car where everything is part of that one brand, we're not. We're an amalgamation of brands that partner together, that work together, that need to trust each other. And that's why that network is a constant evolution. And we're
and we're also building voyaging boats. And these voyaging boats end up all over the world, okay? And, as Mark Delaney sometimes jokes, he says, when people are buying a Balance Catamaran or a cruising catamaran, they're entering the Dakar 1000, right? And the Dakar 1000, when you're going over the sand dunes and you're punishing your car and something breaks and you're in the middle of the Gobi Desert, well, the manufacturer can't fly in a helicopter to solve your problem. So you've got to try and make it as reliable as possible. But you also, as a voyaging sailor, an adventurer, have to expect that sometimes things will happen. And that's a part of what it means to voyage and explore.
Yeah. So the key thing here is quality, right? And there's so much more to say about quality, because I'll leave it at that. And I think let's leave this one there and create a new video just talking about building for quality and all the different areas that involves. So
great.
Yeah. So
until then,
stay in balance.